viewers from all over the world. First, feel free to drop into the chat where you are. Big changes were announced in Canadian immigration policies this week. And if you're an international student, a recent graduate, or you're thinking about studying in Canada, these changes will affect you and potentially your spouse. So stick around as we discuss the changes to study permits, post-graduation work permit eligibility, and spousal work permit changes. And stick with us to the end where we're going to have a Q&A question and answer segment. And we're going to talk about how the masterclass that I just launched, free masterclass, free for now, will address a lot of the questions that you have and a lot of the turmoil that you might be feeling with regards to these changes. So stick with us to the end. Who is us? Well, I'm joined here today by Mrs. Sanjay Brown from StudiiCAN. So I'm just going to let you see her face right here. So I'm joined by Mrs. Sanjay Brown from StudiiCAN. She is a career and education coach and an engineering in training, which means that she's working towards her professional engineering certification, her PEng, here in Canada. And she also helps professionals in regulated professions get licensed and get back into their career fields. And that is super important, especially for the changes that were announced, because a lot of in-demand occupations in Canada, not all, but a lot of them are in regulated professions. So welcome, Madam. Nice to have you.
Thank you. It's good being here. Christina did a good job introducing herself. I don't think I have much more to say more than, I just wanted to have this chat and hopefully this will help a lot of people. But yeah, looking forward to the discussion.
Awesome. And I'm Christina McPherson, the host of this platform as told by Canadian Immigrants and your Canadian immigration coach, author, and speaker. And so we're going to just dive into it because a lot of people already know me. And if you don't, there's an opportunity to know me even more. But like I said, we're going to discuss these new study permit changes. We're going to discuss the post-graduation work permit eligibility because I'm sure there are a lot of questions around that especially. And we're going to talk about the spousal open work permit changes and the fact that there's, because like these changes are happening as a result of course, things got away from our immigration body. And also, elections are coming up. And with all of the impact that immigration has had on Canada, the society, the economy, there's a high anti-immigrant sentiment amongst Canadians. So we're going to touch a little bit about that. So if you are in the chat right now and you're here, thank you for being here. Welcome, Kim from Barbados. Just drop in the chat where you're from. And if you're an international student, put an S. If you are a post-graduation or open work permit holder, put a W. And if you are outside of Canada, put an O. So S for student, W for work permit holder, and O if you're outside of Canada looking in and trying to come to Canada. So we're going to dive into it. But before that, a little bit of housekeeping. Just understand that we are not immigration consultants, nor do we claim to be. And this webinar and this information is for information purposes only, and it's not to replace an immigration consultant or lawyer. It is not to be acted upon without the advice of such people. And we're here to support you the way we would have wanted to be supported when we came to Canada as immigrants. I came 10 years ago. When did you come, Sanjay?
I came 7, 8 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. So we've been here for a little while and we would have wanted this kind of support when we came here. And that's what we're being for you as coaches. And yeah, you're friendly immigration people. All right, so let's dive into the changes, right? I mean, Sanjay, I've been talking, so I'll let you touch on maybe the first change that I guess is not super critical, but is kind of critical in the change in the cap.
Yeah, so I think a lot of persons are aware that earlier this year, they decided to cap the numbers for international students. The number is still a pretty big number, and I personally don't think it should deter anybody. But they decided that they're going to further cap that number a little into 2025, 2026. So I think I wouldn't be concerned or caught up with the actual number, but just be aware that there is an additional cap that was added to it. And I think let's kind of, Christina, talk about the impacts of that. Because for me personally, I feel like the number is not that much of a great concern. What is at this point is getting qualified students applying, getting qualified applications. You know, there was this thing everybody would say, oh, I can do my application on my own. I'll just write a little letter. And no, it's a lot more serious. You know, you don't just write a little letter, because now applications are going to be more heavily scrutinized. So what it means is that people have to be more prepared. It doesn't mean that, oh, this is out of the picture for me. But what it means is that if I'm not ready, if I don't have this amount of money, if I don't select the right program to study, maybe I should think about it.
Yeah. And on top of that, because I was just watching the presentation from the minister, that a lot of provinces this year came in under their cap, right? Which, I mean, what does that even mean then? Because what does that even mean for this number that they've capped in any case? But it does mean that you can't just wait to apply when you think that you are ready or when you feel like it. This is going to mean that time is of the essence. Planning early is important. And of course, if you know that there's 3 cycles of admissions throughout the year, there's January, there is May, so there's winter, spring, and fall. So January, May, and September. And of course, we might see a bulk of the people in the first half of the year, which means that closer to the end of the year, which is typical, close to the end of the year, caps tend to be reached. And so it's early planning for now for May and September of next year, because these numbers will come into play for just your planning, if anything. And of course, so the big change in this small change is that they're going to reduce the number of study permits that they're issuing for next year. Right. So this year it was like about 485,000. Next year they're going to bring it down to 437,000 plus or minus. So we're going to see how they distribute that across provinces. All the provinces don't have equal share, and it just means proper planning, and heavier scrutiny, right? Like you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely proper planning as it relates to also what program that you do. I know this year, you know, there was this shift. Let's shift to master's program and PhD programs, because what that means, you know, you can submit your application whenever you want, because you don't need that PAL. And, you know, the PAL can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks to get to your inbox, which means you have a 6-week additional timeline added to when you want to apply, not just the school application. No, we have to consider that PAL. But now we have to consider that PAL for master's and PhD students. It wasn't the case before. So that's also applied to them. And the PhD and the masters also have a cap now.
Exactly, right? So the masters and PAL, for anybody who doesn't know, that's a provincial attestation letter. And before now, we mentioned that, you know, they've come down on the number of study permits that they will issue for 437,000. 12% of that is reserved for masters and PhD students, which means that if you're not one of those, then the number that you're thinking about is even smaller, right? And like she said, very qualified candidates, we'd hope anyway. So but yeah, that's the biggest change in terms of study permits and for people who are looking at those things. We're going to jump over to the changes to the post-graduation work permit eligibility. And if you have questions, guys, we're going to have a question and answer segment at the end here. So we're going to, keep whatever comes to mind, drop it in the chat.
Go back over them.
And we'll go back over them, no problem. But we want to make sure that we capture the changes. And we might answer your questions as we go along, right? Because I know that this post-graduation work permit eligibility, if I was an international student right now in Canada and this change was announced, my initial result or my initial response would be panic, because it's like, does this post-graduation work permit eligibility affect me? I'm already here. I'm already studying. The ship sail. You know, the ship is not at the dock anymore.
Right. I spent all the money already.
Right. And I know that we have Raquel on here who will get her time to jump in as well, who, some people are looking to study again in Canada. I think somebody in the chat just said that they're a student and they're going to be a student again. Oh, do these changes affect me? So they've changed the eligibility for post-graduation work permits. Well, they've added a language requirement. So before now, you could just apply, if you finish school and you just apply for your post-graduation work permits and you get it. Now, you have to do a language test before you can apply for your post-graduation work permit. Not only a language test, but you have to get a certain score. So if you are in like a university level program, you have to get a CLB, Canadian Language Benchmark of 7, which is like a 75% or so. Like it's not 100%, but you're like in between fail and pass. Right? And then for college graduates, you have to get a CLB of 5, which is just above pass because the lowest is 4. So just above pass. Right? And this, I think the benefits to you guys with this is that you know, not waiting everlasting for the perfect opportunity to take your language test to join the express entry pool, because some of you are doing it too late.
Let's talk about that. I feel like let's not skip that one.
Let us hang out there. Let us camp here for a second.
Let us just camp on this one, because I feel like I've talked so much to people about it, and people don't really understand. Like, all right, let's roll it back a little bit, guys. You don't necessarily have to study in Canada to be eligible. If you're somebody with work experience, a bachelor's degree or whatever, go into the pool. Like if it was me, let me tell you guys what I would do. If it was me, the minute I got here and I start to study, I would go into the pool. That's what I would do. If I'm qualified for express entry, I would go into the pool. Was it 2022 when they had that 79 CRS score?
Right.
I don't know if you guys knew about that, but let's talk about that too. There was a random draw to take up all the international students that were in Canada working, and the CRS score, for those of us who know what that is. So it's a score, it's basically a score to decide who they select and who have the most potential for PR, basically. Let's just say that it's a virtual waiting room.
Yes.
And the score was 79. 79, which means anybody that was sitting in the pool at 300, 100, no matter where you are, you will be selected. So a lot of persons would wait. And I did this for my cousin, and she's now
75.
Right? So she had work experience from back home, a nurse, all of that. Put her in the pool, her score was 397. Somebody like that would say, no, I'm not going into the pool. She went into the pool. Ontario picked her up, because Ontario is always picking up people. So they picked her up, and in 5 months, she got her PR. So I just wanted to camp out there a little bit for people who have been like, oh, I need to finish school first. I need to get that 1 year of work experience first. I don't know where this notion come from, but
yes.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So now this requirement is going to require you to go and take a language test early. I know that the language results expire in 2 years. I get it. In another 2 years, you might have to spend another $300 to do it again. But you can't win the lotto if you don't have a ticket. You can't get picked if you're not in the pool. If you're not in the pool, right? And let us say, like, maybe there's no miraculous low number. I think it was 75, somebody in the chat. But maybe there's no miraculous low number, right? But the mere fact that there's students that are coming, that are going through you don't know the full process. So then you're not doing a language test, you're not doing your education credential assessment, and you're waiting for 1 year Canadian experience to join the pool, and you shouldn't be. So no, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Right? I see Kim was saying she's in demand, but Ontario had a draw Friday as well. And if you take a look at that list, it was a very extensive list.
Yes.
You had electrical technologists on it, you had drafting specialists on it, you had a bunch of people. So take a look at that draw that Ontario did, and look at the previous ones that they've been selecting as well. And even New Brunswick and all of those people, there are things in demand, that what I'm saying is that there are things in demand that
Mhm.
we're currently working that we
Mhm.
don't know that it's in demand
Yes.
because one, we're not in the pool, so we don't even know, and we're not looking. So we just keep on the lookout, just be on the lookout because we just never know.
You never know. You never know. So now the biggest change that a lot of people are confused about, I don't feel very confused about it. I don't know. But I see a lot of people asking questions about what does this mean? So the next big change, and this could change everything. This
Yeah.
could change the schools that are open, the programs that are available at lots of colleges, because now they're going to be tying post-graduation work permits to long-term or in-demand labor shortages or needs in the Canadian labor market, right?
Mm.
To me, that's pretty clear, and I saw this change coming, right? When I did the masterclass, the very first strategy that I outlined in my masterclass, which you'll learn more about at the end, is in where to find these in-demand occupations, because they're not making it a secret. And when they do announce the official change, it won't be a secret as to what occupations are in demand, what industries are in demand. And what I teach you how to do is how to find those in-demand occupations at a federal level and at a provincial level, because this is not new. And what they're trying to clamp down on, right? Here's a message that I think that they're sending, right? Is that studying in Canada cannot be a backdoor entry into Canada to be able to figure out how to stay just based on the fact that you studied in Canada, a random program that some agent told you to just go and study, right? I almost ended up in that situation. Thankfully, the agent kind of coached me in the right direction. But some agents are saying, yeah, man, just go study business. Yeah, man, just go study HR. Yeah, man, just go study I don't want to knock any programs because I don't want to send anybody heart rates. So the question is no, do these changes affect students that are currently studying in Canada? And we're going to go into that right now in terms of what we've been able to find to help to set anybody's mind at ease. Or if it's not at ease, the fact that you need to pivot and figure something out right now. But no, your post-graduation work permit is not going to be automatic. You won't be eligible just because you studied at a designated learning institution in Canada in a program that's eligible. Nope, they're stripping that away. So I don't know if you want to comment before I bring up the facts. Well, the facts that we've been able to find out. Now we know that what the minister announced right now is an announcement for intended changes. Some changes were hard, saying that for the language test, it's going to be effective November the 1st. Some changes were not as blatant or obvious in terms of dates, but we've been able to extract some information to answer this question. Does this eligibility affect students that are in school right now?
Yeah, we can bring that up now. Yeah, I think
All right.
we can talk about it after, but yeah, bring up the proof so that they can see it.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen real quick here.
Mhm.
And so there's two different things happening. Confirm that you can see my screen, yes?
Yeah, seeing it.
So there is the announcement, which comes out on the Government of Canada website. So this is always going to be a trusted source for anything immigration. The Government of Canada Citizenship and Immigration IRCC website. Okay. So in the announcement, they didn't say about the so they did say that they're going to update post-graduation and work permits to better align with immigration goals and labor needs. But that was like an open-ended statement. However, also available is the speaking notes of the minister that day when he made this announcement, which is way more extensive, as you can see in this document, than the official summary of announcements, right? And in it, he said, for prospective students, so that's future students applying on or after November 1st, post-graduation and work permit eligibility will depend on the level of study. Right? He did mention that people in bachelor's, master's, or doctoral programs will remain eligible for work permits. But for future students, after November 1st or on that date, your eligibility will depend on your level of study. I also found a second, and that point in his talk is at about the 35-minute point in his official speech on YouTube. Okay. Additionally, this is from an immigration consultant who's also a YouTuber. His name is Kubir. I wasn't able to find 100% where this source came from, but he's saying that the colleges and institutions have obtained some information from IRCC to suggest that current students are safe prospective students who apply before November 1st are safe. And anybody who applies to, and this is applying for a study permit, not applying for a post-graduation work permit, right? Because this is talking about your eligibility. So people who apply after November 1st or on November 1st will only be eligible if it is in line with labor shortages and needs, coming back to what he said here, right? Yeah. So I think that's for me feels pretty
safe until otherwise.
Until otherwise noted, right? Because we know so next week again, they're more come with more changes.
Until otherwise,
yes.
The information that's currently available.
So I would say that if you're currently in Canada, based on this, it seems that you are safe. So if you're in HR, yes, or project management or business administration, based on this, it seems you're okay. However, on or after November 1st is when the post-graduation eligibility work permit changes. However, I want you guys to understand that immigration is fluid. I've heard somebody say that it is the most fluid legal system there is right now. I don't know if it's globally or in Canada, but at least in Canada, no other law not change on a weekly basis like immigration.
And it just can. I think a point to note about this though, Christina, I know there are probably people with HR and you guys background are management and it's already administration and it's already there. And I do want to recommend though that if those are the jobs that you're currently in, take a look at the demand, make sure that you sign up for the masterclass. Take a look at the jobs in demand, do it on your own if you want to do that. But what I would suggest is pivoting. I did a video about this a couple months ago is, for example, if I studied a business administration program and I know that's not going to fall on the list, I personally, based on person's background and some of the clients that I've spoken to, take a look at like a data analyst role. There are short courses on Coursera. There are short courses on LinkedIn. There is networking opportunities. Network and try to fit yourself into those roles. Because for me, what I would want to do is try to get a knock code in those roles so that if any card play, my number draw, and I'm somewhat safe regardless of what I studied. Like I'm trying to pivot, like be on the pivot, like do some short course to make yourself be eligible. Because there are chemical engineers like myself that work in the bank. How they reach? I don't know. But people pivot. So that's what I'm saying. Don't be too discouraged because I was a student too. And the laws were changing just the same when I'm here. And I'm sure it was changing for Christina because I used to watch Christina. So when they say grow up on, I grew up on Christina. So I used to watch Christina too, because it's always changing. And to be in that position, I completely understand that it can be super nerve-wracking. But we'll talk about like the masterclass and stuff after, but it can be super nerve-wracking. That's like Christina created her community. But what I'm saying is stay on the lookout, guys. Be in networks that can help you, that can push you, that can say, okay, maybe I can refer you to this job to kind of pivot. Just don't look when you finish doing that HR program or you finish doing that admin program or you finish doing that project management program. Try to do an IT project manager. Try to do a data analyst with that. Or try to be a construction project manager. Try to pivot with what you have. Don't just be a HR. Try to be like an IT, like, because weird enough, I know our HR girl that's in project management. So try to pivot with the skills that you have to suit those needs. Don't get comfortable with the PGWP and don't get comfortable knowing that, okay, I'm good. Because the next step is we want all of you guys to get your PR. Like we don't want people to come and waste the money and go back home, right? Just wanted to
That's perfect though. Perfect on that point. That's a perfect note because like you said that if you get comfortable with the fact that, oh yes, I'll get a work permit. But that's literally the tip of the iceberg. The journey literally almost just starts.
It just starts.
You're running a hurdles, you're in a 400-meter hurdles and that's the second hurdle.
Yeah.
All right. Because at the end of the day, you still have to, like, your river or your stream have to lead into PR, some way, shape, or form. And right now we're seeing express entry scores in the 500s. So even if you get a post-graduation work permit and you're safe and all these things, is your score over 500? No. Are you in line with some other form of immigration program? Are you in one of the in-demand, like, underpopulated areas, right? You have to figure out, no, you're safe-ish.
Yeah.
You get a permit.
Let's keep tracking.
Keep tracking, because you know what's happening to a lot of people this year and will happen to people going into 2025. They're going to be falling out of status. And I know that we have a few on here who are probably watching the live who have fallen out of status or their permit is about to expire, right? Like some people were saved by the bell, right? I know somebody who just got picked up in this draw last week.
Yeah.
And his permit would have expired in November, right?
Wow.
So just because you have a work permit doesn't mean anything is automatic for you in terms of being able to stay in Canada. Speaking of which, I do want to touch on the fact that there's a lot of misunderstanding around LMIAs and what an LMIA is and what it does for you. So I'm going to touch on that just a little bit because I realize that there's people that will be selling you LMIAs and all of that stuff, right? An LMIA, Labor Market Impact Assessment, is a company telling the government, we've searched all of Canada to fill this position and there's nobody in Canada available to this position. We have to hire somebody who does not have Canadian status or a work permit or whatever to work because we can't find anybody to do it, which is usually jobs nobody wants to do or a job that there's hardly anybody's qualified for. So you're a rocket scientist of the sort. You've been to the moon twice. That's a minimum qualification, right? So, like, regardless of whoever can get an LMIA, when you get an LMIA, it's just a work permit. An LMIA doesn't make you eligible like immediately for permanent residency. I know a family that came here 9 years ago on an4 They were brought over in more ministry, right? Well, it's an LMIA for them and their family. It's a family of 4 kids, 2 parents. Each 3 years that came, when their work permit was going to expire, they couldn't find a way to convert to permanent residency because they didn't have enough points, right? There was no economic stream for them to go through. And because of the reason they were here for, didn't allow for them to just get up and move to Atlantic Canada or do something random like that, right? So 3 years came, they had to renew. 3 years came, they had to renew. 3 years came, they had to renew. 9 years in Canada. 9 years in Canada. And on the 3rd time of renewing, still no way to convert to PR, they left. And they had an LMIA, right? Wow. So don't think that because you get an LMIA will give you 50 points on your express entry profile if you get one, right? But if you already have low points and it's not going to bring you up, it's not going to be in demand, then you get what a dog gets. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think I do see people messaging me and asking me about LMIAs and all that stuff. Don't run off in the people them country. I'm going to start clamping down on that too. Yeah. So that's the post-graduation work permit change.
Yeah.
But yeah, long story short, but long. Next thing, spousal, the spousal open work permits. So I know that this change rocked the system when I didn't see that one coming. Not that I did see a lot of these changes coming, but that one I didn't see coming. It makes perfect sense, but I wouldn't even think.
I feel like I didn't see this one coming at all. Like this one really rocked me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, and I feel really bad. Like I have no words for this one, to be honest.
So first they said spouses of only masters and PhD programs and come on an open work permit. So if you come in and you're studying at a college or even a university, unless you're doing a master's or a doctorate, your spouse can't come. So then we had a lot of people looking at master's programs. We're like, all right, fine, we'll just study the master's. Now, master's programs are obviously more expensive, right? To study.
Some of them, yeah.
Some of them, and you can touch on that actually, because I think you had a really good point on that. But no, they're saying that one, they're aligning the spouses of the programs to be in line with like select professionals select pilot programs or select in-demand occupations. And also, the master's program has to be 16 months or more.
Yeah, before it was
Na-na-na.
masters. So, you know, we were all like, okay, we can do a 1-year master's, even if it's more expensive. But now they're like 16 months.
So you're basically looking at a 2-year program almost, right? But yeah, talk about I just said that, you know, loosely, that master's programs are usually expensive, although I did find some that were the same price as college programs,
Right.
but you know more than me.
Yeah, so that was the point. Like, a lot of people would think, okay, master's programs are always more expensive. There are a lot of master's programs that are not more expensive. They are like for like in terms of cost. I think one of the big things that persons should consider is that some of these master's programs that are cheaper, they're gonna be at universities that are not number 5 on the list in Canada, right? Because then they're cheaper, and not only not number 5 on the list, but there are certain of these programs, master's programs, that will be at provinces that are not overly populated. So a Newfoundland, they have really cheap programs. PEI, they have really cheap programs. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, so the University of Regina, University of Saskatchewan, they have programs that are even under 16,000. And then you have New Brunswick, you have Crandall University. So you have a lot of schools that are, of course, in those rural areas that a lot of persons don't tend to go. And I think one of the push is for people to spread out a little bit. Let's just populate those other areas. So you can find master's programs that are a lot cheaper, but you have to be willing to give up the city life. Yeah.
Which right now expensive anyway. So.
Right. So whatever. Exactly.
Right.
Oh.
So
yeah.
So cool, right? So I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people wouldn't really be able to come here and fend for themselves without their spouse, right? And one advantage that I saw, and I can even think of a couple right now, the husband is studying, the wife has a work permit. And with all these changes, you have to capitalize on the person that has the work permit right now, right?
Yes, that's a good point.
Right? Work towards permanent residency as soon as possible. I did an interview with somebody who is in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's on our channel with Gio. And Gio came as the primary applicant, as a student studied, and then his wife became the primary applicant because she was able to meet whatever requirement for the provincial nominee program while he was still in school. So he's going to get PR before school even done.
Yes. And it happens all the time. And maybe that's also another miss that some people don't know about, is that if you're here with your spouse, the advantage is that your spouse will hit the ground running while you're in school. So they'll cover that 1 year of work experience in Canada before you cover that 1 year. What they would need to make sure is that they're in one of those tiers, they're in one of those knocks, they're in one of those applications, and then they go into the pool and keep pushing you guys forward. I earlier when we did our intro, I said I studied in Canada, but my husband was actually the person with the most points that got us our permanent residency. So I think that's what a lot of people don't understand as well, or they're probably just not aware, because I feel like I didn't know. It was another Jamaican girl that went to Centennial with us. She got her PR while in school because her husband was able to knock it off in time. So that's the advantage, and that's why I feel like this one affected my brain cells a little bit more, because I know how having a spouse, it's 2 people now running against the race.
Exactly.
But with one person, it's a little, it
kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks. I feel for you guys.
Yeah.
So yes, if you're here with your spouse, though I've seen situations where the spouses are in tier 4 jobs, we know that tier 4, they're going to make some changes soon, but tier 4, tier 5 are not eligible for express entry. So you're kind of wasting the opportunity. So don't waste the opportunity to get on the right side of immigration, because you never know when the next change is around the corner, basically.
And Christina, for all who don't follow Christina right now, but Christina has a job list in the Atlantic that is very up to date, and so don't sleep on it.
Yes, and we're going to talk more about that later on. Thank you for plugging that. So the next, overall, they're looking to reduce the temporary foreign workers that are in Canada, right? Of course, they're trying to clean up a mess it's kind of like I use this analogy all the time. It's like you just light a little campfire in your backyard and you go inside and leave the fire unattended and you come back outside and the whole of the backyard is on fire.
Yeah.
And them have to out the fire. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
By whatever means necessary, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's collateral damage. People don't feel appreciated, respected, seen because you kind of feel like things, like, oh, we needed you at some point, but right now we don't really need all of you anymore. So bye.
And I feel that.
Yeah.
I
And that's
feel
not
that,
nice.
yeah. And I guess for persons that came and those visitor to workers that ended, like a lot of those people would have been doing jobs that are, like they couldn't give a Canadian. And so to just be like, bam, sham, thank you, madam. Just,
Yeah. They
Yeah.
feel kind of,
Yeah.
it feel away, But at the end of the day, like I said to people, is that so when we leave our countries and say we want to move to Canada, we have big hopes and dreams for ourselves, right? And we're thinking about betterment of ourselves and our future and our family. The government is thinking about Canada, right?
Yeah.
Immigration exists for the benefit of the country, right? And so what you have to do with your hopes and dreams is to try and get them to align with the hopes and dreams of the welcoming country because they have the power, right? And this is what the masterclass is about, is alignment. How do you get on their side? Because that's all that matters at this point right now, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes without compromising, without sacrificing your whole life to go and be something that you don't want to be or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important. That was a good point, Christina. I think it's also important, like I was saying to a client just the other day, I'm like, try until it doesn't compromise you. But if you feel like you're giving up your sleep, you're giving up everything, at some point, I think we have to determine on our own if this is really for us. Because the truth is, we all want better. I want better for you guys. I want as much Jamaicans as some other people that are here. But the reality is that I don't want to, in the midst of everything, we have a bunch of Jamaicans or a bunch of Barbadian, Bajans or Bahamians or Trinis or wherever you're from, just dropping down outside because this system just stress you all the way out. We really don't want that. I think what we want to make sure is that we are aligning ourselves with them as much as we can until we can't anymore.
Exactly.
And what that means is not going to study something that you absolutely don't like, because that's one thing I ask somebody. Here are some suggestions that I have for you. But is this something that you like? Let's look at the courses. If this is not something that you like, we're not going to force ourselves to do it. Because then you don't want to get down the road and be like, what am I doing?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Right. And I see a lot of people eyeballing PSW. Like if you don't have the heart to be a PSW, like PSW work is wiping butts sometimes. I know. Like my sister got all of the doctor genes. Every last one. I can't even dress a cut.
Same.
Yesterday I got a splinter in my finger. You should have seen me. Right? I have capacity for my daughter and that's it.
Yeah, I can't do it either.
Right? And so you don't want to be putting yourself in a situation where you don't have the heart to do it. And it's not fair to the patient either. If you are not PSW capacity, right? You have to be caring, you have to be very giving and nurturing and all that stuff. I'm not saying that I'm not nurturing. I couldn't be a doctor. I don't want to do surgery. I don't even like plant roots. Nothing. Right? So I think the message that immigration is trying to send here very clearly without saying it, well, them say it. Studying in Canada is not an immigration pathway. It shouldn't be used as a backdoor to come to Canada. They're trying to stop people from, and they're in some capacity, they are sparing you from some of the scammers that are out there. Like immigration is such a predatory industry. It's sad. So sad, right? They're trying to spare you from some people who are going to come and tell you to study some dummy course at some college or place that the
That's not
quality of
even
education is good.
green.
It's not even worth it.
They're not even on the DLI list, and even if they're on it, it's not like yes.
Exactly, right? So you don't want, they're saving you, but they're also saving themselves, the country, of course, from people just coming in through these backdoor programs and backdoor colleges or whatever the case is. Things got away, that's on them, and they're trying to clean up their mess, and there's collateral damage, unfortunately. Right? I think we covered most of the changes. Is there any change that was unturned? Visitor to worker, it's done. So if you're here as a visitor and you have high hopes and dreams, applying for a work permit inside of Canada is no longer possible for you. I think like what's next? What could be next? I think is a interesting change thing. So I have a couple of like, I know that the direction that they're trying to move, especially with express entry draws, is in demand or creme de la creme. If you're not on the in demand list, you have whole heap of points, right? If you don't have enough whole heap of points, you're probably just going to hang out in the pool eternally. I do think that even though right now, French, they're prioritizing French speaking people because they want to like protect and maintain the francophone or the French language in Canada, and they want to build up on it. And though right now it is a situation where I never knew before, I think before now, that there are people that are buying or selling language test results. I didn't know that was a thing.
What?
I learned that in certain countries. I'm going to say it as I heard it.
I watched a documentary too.
Okay, so I heard that there's
English test though, not the French one.
Well, whoever can hot off the press of a fake language test result, I'm pretty sure them can hot off the press fake language test results for any language test. So, you don't want to be doing that. But I do think that at some point they're going to come down on even the language requirements for French, to make it more legit. Because I did high school Spanish. Did you do a language in high school?
I did Spanish in high school. I also did my degree is bilingual. I did Spanish all 4 years. I don't know.
Well, there you go. Right? I did Spanish. So my school Spanish was compulsory.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we did Spanish all the way up to CXC level. So I got a 2 or a 1. I think a 2. I did better in Spanish than English. Ask me to hold a conversation in Spanish right now, no? No, comprendo. Right? So like the fact is that yeah, you can do language, you can pass a test and all that stuff. They want to preserve French. I think at some point they're going to come down on it. Not to discourage anybody, learn it legitimately, because it is going to be beneficial for you in Canada, right? I've said this so many times already, but there was a big bank. I was at a networking event and a big bank was doing some hiring, and the bank said, for this cycle, we're only hiring bilingual candidates. Right? And so they're looking for people, and then of course the francophone communities have a lot more French integration. So you want to take it seriously, but it is a pathway that will not only benefit you in immigration,
but
marketable as well, right? But don't abuse it. Don't miss paying for no language result. It's going to backfire. It's going to backfire on you. Okay. So I think we did talk about the most recent changes. What could be next? I think this big post-graduation work permit is the most obvious one that I saw coming, that they're going to change it and make it align with in-demand occupations. So we want to go to the chat area right now. Very active chat area here. So, and I know that we also have Raquel on here. Raquel, if I were you, the biggest question I would be asking is, am I safe because I'm already in Canada? And I think we answered that, but that's the biggest question that I assume that you would have. But if you want to go ahead, we have Raquel on here, who is an international student over in Newfoundland, Labrador, the cheapest province to live in as to date, but also has the benefit of being in an underpopulated area that has things like the Atlantic Immigration Program and such. So let us know if you have any questions, if you want to put them in the chat, or if you want to unmute or show yourself. Yes. That is,
Oh,
yeah,
you said I could unmute, right?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Hi. I think honestly, like I'm not super worried right now because my program, I still have a couple of semesters left. So I know, let the chips fall where they may because there's no turning back for my Masters of Employment Relations. It's just, when time comes for the PGWP, is it going to be something else? Am I going to be eligible? Fortunately, my university has tons of free course. Well, I don't want to say free courses, but we get to do like one free course per
Mm.
semester with our business unit. So already I've signed up for fundamentals in project management because you never can tell.
Girl, do it.
And I would tack on some STEM something on there.
Do some IT data analysis, business analysis things, thingy. Do one of them things. Yeah.
But if I find a business analyst or data analyst, because I am slightly interested in that, I have almost zero interest in IT, but data analyst, yes.
Yes. Try. And just keep abreast of that list. Keep abreast of what they want, that in demand, and just make sure that it's always still there because we don't know. Today it's there,
Mhm.
tomorrow speaks for itself. So
Cool.
Right. Yeah. And then in terms of the points thing, I am not winning, I always say I'm not winning any brownie points in the express entry pool. So I just have to take it as it comes.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for chiming in there, Raquel. So the question and answer section is open up now so people can chime in the chat section here. So I'm going to go down the list. Welcome from all the countries that are chiming in. People in Barbados, Jamaica, Belize, people here in Canada. Hello and welcome. Kim said, like, yes, I do think that this chances of your study permit being rejected is going to be higher in general. I
Yeah.
think I did see a statistic on Canada. And so when I say I think, it's because I saw it, but I didn't go anywhere to validate it. But I did see where Canada has the highest refusal rate for study permits ever.
Yeah.
And I think now that it's going to be a lot more, they're going to be a lot more specific with who they give attestation letters and who they give study permits. Of course, the rejection rate is going to go up. Hello, just joined in.
What I saw the schools doing as well, which is probably a point to mention, is that a lot of the schools they have been doing a slightly higher deposit, is what I've been noticing.
Mm.
And sometimes they want to, assess a student's financial background. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with persons who, oh, let me just get the application out of the way, and then, I want to figure out the finances,
Funny part.
a lot of them are issuing conditional letters
Mm-hmm.
now,
Mm-hmm.
pending the fact that you can actually pay for it. And then they'll have you sign up like a form to say, yes, I meet. They won't ask you to show them, but they want you to sign up a form to say, yes, I meet this. Yes, this looks good. And then they apply for your PAL. So, be ready.
And I mean, I've done a couple of videos with a company called Passage before. There's another one that because I just met with Bobby last week, and so we had a video that's coming out the next week. Just about so Passage is an organization that helps international students with loans to study at programs that are in line with in-demand occupations in Canada. So they've done a lot of this work already. They saw this coming. They did a lot of it reverse engineering. So they're only supporting programs that are in line with in-demand occupations. And of course, for students who need financial assistance. And because they are a Canadian institution, a Canadian financial institution, basically, right? Who now has allocated seats at Georgetown College, for example. And then at master's programs, they'll help you with funding for master's programs, but have no allocated seats to my knowledge. The attestation letter approval for them is higher than an individual, for example, because of course they know that you have the money behind you and they know that you're in a program that's in line with an in-demand occupation, and kind of like the stars are aligning with Passage. And so if you need financial assistance, of course it's a loan. So it's a big boy loan. So you have some level of collateral, you have a payback rate and all that stuff that supports your tuition and your cost of living requirement for 1 year. So you can get more information on that from me later on. But I think that even just their methodology is something that you as an individual should adopt, right?
Mm-hmm. Always, yeah, I think always, like, I think we should always, I always say, plan for the worst and hope for the best. Always kind of reverse engineer, like, what can I do to make sure that I'm in somewhat of a safe space? Because truthfully, we really don't really can predict a safe space, but stay flexible. Raquel mentioned like having free courses at school and signing up for them already. And networking is essential, especially for persons that are doing a slight, pivot. So if Raquel come and she did HR, but now she wants to pivot into data analyst role, it is how do I get a job? Because now you need that work experience to go to do the express entry portion of it. So how do I get a job? What it means is showing up and showing out at any function, especially those from the Caribbean, if you guys are worried about racism or whatever. But even the diaspora meeting, you don't know who you can meet, and showing up for those kind of things. And once you build that type of network, then you will be better able. Just yesterday, I got somebody's resume, and a friend of mine was asking me to pass it along to my engineering firm. But I said, I don't know them. I can't refer them. They can go ahead and apply because there are open roles. But what it means is no. I don't know if you guys realize, but the Nigerian community, they're a community. And so, for us, I think it's important that we try to form a community because each one help one. It's not one here the issue out, even though they have the cap. So what it means is forming those networks that we can get into those jobs, especially for people without the work experience and the back end, so that we can keep pivoting. We can keep pivoting because we know somebody and we just keep sliding until we get where we want to get.
And you just mentioned something that reminded me of a change that they said that they're going to announce, but hasn't announced it yet. But they're going to be changing the PR caps, the annual PR caps for the year, and they're going to make an announcement on November the 1st. So, before now it was 400 and something thousand a year, up to a maximum of 500,000 between now and 2026. That number could come down, which means, again, that even if you're in the express entry pool and you're saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait for my 1 year experience in Canada, don't do it, right? Jump in, find a route, people who are in Ontario and you love the city life and it's just not working out. If it's not fertile PR soil in Ontario, don't stay in Ontario, right? Because if there's a cap, it means that there's going to be they're going to have to cap the invitations to apply. Right? Like the numbers have to add up at the end of the day, right? And of course, so now we're seeing so New Brunswick just closed their Atlantic Immigration Program and Provincial Nominee Program because they've reached their cap. So you're going to see that happening closer to the end of the year, obviously, because the caps reset on January the 1st.
Yeah.
Right?
But like Christina said, and that's one thing that I've been, like, if you have family members and you want to go to provinces that are a little bit more populated, go out, don't stay in, because especially for Ontario, you get extra points towards not studying in the city. So they make sure it's a GTA boundary. Once you study in GTA, you don't get the points for studying in the GTA. If you're in the GTA, they also don't give you the points for the working. So they want people to start spreading out. So be very mindful of that. I know a lot of times it's hard to settle and resettle. But if you're settled right now in Toronto, I would really highly recommend that you set up a plan to eventually settle out of Toronto City. If you still want to stay in Ontario because you see there is possibilities for the provincial nomination program here, because it's highly possible. It's, they're always selecting people throughout the year. And if you see there's a possibility, then stay, but try to get out of that GTA circle. If you can, Newfoundland, let's start forming that community, guys. Raquel is there. Now because you're in this community of Caribbean folks and you're in this community with all of us, then you can start, okay, I know Raquel is there, I'm going to ping not Raquel. Raquel, I want to move. You can help me find a little place, or can you help me to kind of settle? And then no, we have those small little group paths where they come into some workplaces and them just take over. You want to meet those people that are
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And I mean, so in May, I went to Nova Scotia. And when I went, I brought two families with me who were a part of my close circle and they wanted to come and they needed an Atlantic Canada miracle of the sort, right? One of them did get an Atlantic Canada miracle, got an LMIA exempt LMIA exempt job offer to then go into provincial nominee program, right? So amen, hallelujah, right? However, that's not the only trip that I will have, right? I will go to the other Atlantic provinces and you are more than welcome to come and see how you can network, right? You don't necessarily go there and jump into a job. That's not how it works sometimes, but you're going to go there and make connections. If we go as a group, then you have a little group who could probably share or split rent with or something to do with it. But keep an eye out for those.
Definitely highly recommend.
Yes. All right. So I think somebody's saying, I think it's unfair to put restrictions on the course of study. They're not putting a restriction on the course of study now. You can come and study whatever you want to study as long as you can get a study permit. The thing is that they're putting a restriction on who they're allowing to stay, which it is the prerogative of the country, because at the end of the day, even if they don't put a restriction on that, you're gonna come here, you're not gonna get a job. You're gonna come here, you're probably not gonna get a job in your field, right? So it's not like they're putting restriction on the course of study. If you can get a study permit to study in Canada, by all means, what they're saying is that your post-graduation work permit eligibility is gonna be dependent on in-demand occupations, which to me it makes sense. Because alternatively, it's just that you're gonna have a bunch of business students and no jobs.
I guess let's think about it this way, guys. Like, okay, we come and we study whatever we want to study, right? And we say, okay, we're gonna do a 1 year or 2 year program in business administration, general. And when we're done, we want to look administration job. Studying in Canada, just the tuition alone, we're not talking about your food, we're not talking about your rent, we're not talking about none of that. For the year, at minimum, on average, you're paying about $16,000 per year. You don't want to pay that on average just for tuition to look for an admin role that will pay you just above that minimum wage mark. Because what better are we? Like, we just leave our country to come here to make just enough to just pay our rent? No. So we want to be strategic. And that's definitely one thing that I'm always talking to my clients about. Like, if you want to study something like that, we're not going to talk. Like, I don't want to waste your time and I don't want people to come and say, Sanjay sent me here. I want it to be strategic about it. And so what we go through in our calls, we go in on talent.com or we're going on something else online. And we say, what's the pay? We want to at least be looking at $25 per hour. And even then, in certain provinces, that's low. So we want to be getting into those programs that when we leave school, even if we're starting as a junior, we're not supposed to be struggling. We want to get off the struggle bus. That's why we even come here. We don't come to join another struggle bus because the struggle bus bigger. We're trying to get off struggle bus and we're not in the rat race. So you also want to be mindful of that. You not only, I'm going to study what they want me to study. You want to study something that when you leave school, you're going to make the money. You're going to be comfortable. And then at the end of the day, you can say, wow, this was all worth it because I feel more relaxed. Not only am I safe, I'm making enough money. You want that for yourself. You want that for yourself.
And remember that part of the announcement wasn't that they're not targeting every potential student in Canada, right? Because people who are in bachelor's programs, people who are in masters and doctors still are eligible based on the minister's statement, are eligible for their post-graduation work permits. And what they're really trying to do, like I said, the message that they're sending is that going to a college and studying a crappy program or a random program that Canada is not needed in Canada has been used as a backdoor entry into Canada and are being sold by agents. A lot of agents are selling education. They're selling study in Canada to stay in Canada, and they're trying to clamp down on that. So that is kind of the root cause of these changes, and they're legitimate because some bit like Sanjay said, that the business programs, whatever programs that don't lead to a fruitful life, are a waste of your time.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Let's see, I've done my English test every year. CRS was that. Are current students impacted? So we answered that question, right? That's current students based on the minister's statement. It seems to be the date that this change will take effect is going to be November the 1st, 2024. That's people on or after that date are the people who this post-graduation work permit eligibility is based on the what we understand from the minister's statement. And I'm
People
sure
after that they applying for study permit. So
study
not,
permits, not post-graduation work permits, correct? Sorry.
yeah. But they can watch the replay for the example, so you guys can actually pin
Yes.
those and just feel a sense of fresh air coming in, like, whew, I can breathe for a minute.
Yes, so I think we answered that question here. Dre, hello and welcome. Dre is a PR, just hanging out and trying to keep abreast. Good for you. And I'm sure you have a lot of friends who need the information or so who may come after you. So feel free to share. And thanks for joining, of course. Yeah, I mean, when you enter so we have a question here that I figured I thought I could not enter the express entry pool because of the financial requirement for express entry, trying to accumulate so that's why you don't enter. Yeah, so when you enter the express entry pool, you want to make sure that the information you're putting in is information that you can prove. So when she says just join the pool, if you're working in Canada, you don't have to meet the financial requirements. I mean, it's good to show that you can fend for yourself. But if you're outside of Canada, then definitely you want to, if you get an invitation to apply tomorrow, because I joined the pool on a Wednesday, and the same Friday, I was invited to apply for permanent residency.
Yeah.
So anything I put on there, you put on there, you want to be able to substantiate, right? So proof of funds, whatever the case is.
Yeah. And if you have work experience that you know they never like you and you can't get any job letter from them, I would be mindful of those ones.
Yeah.
Those ones trap us, and like we get the IT already and like we feel uncomfortable because we're like, what do I do? But if you have pay stubs and stuff, I feel like you can plead your case, but that's really up to you. Just be mindful.
Okay, so a question in here, how do we get a knock code in a data analyst role if we have to get that experience? Well, you have to have the experience.
You have to have the experience. So that's I think probably asked this before the elaboration.
Before. Say that again?
I think this probably was a question before we elaborated.
Yes.
And trying to get into that capacity.
And Kim, my masterclass launched and it has a community in there. And I think I sent you an invite, but check again, or I can send the invite again. Plus at the end, when we're talking here, I'm going to send a link for people to be able to join the masterclass. That's free for now. And we're going to talk a little bit about the masterclass right now after we get these questions here. Please tell us if we are currently in project management. Can you take an IT course for the second course that is in demand so we can get a 3 years post-graduation work permit? Maybe on our before November the 1st. Like, this is a very specific question without knowing enough information. We don't necessarily want to say yes or no for this. A lot of changes are coming in the pipeline in terms of if you do 2 courses, will they try to clamp down on that? I don't know. But ultimately, what is important is that you know what is in demand. You don't just go and study an IT course. Have an understanding what's in demand, which you will learn in the masterclass, where to go and find those in-demand occupations. And then usually when you do 2 one-year programs, you do get a 3-year work permit. That is the case right now until otherwise notified.
Yeah. I think generally we can't really say what will happen for future plans. We can just say what's happening now and try our best to recommend things that you guys can do. And in the masterclass, there's a community, which means you guys can post questions, and we can have a discussion around it. But for those that didn't join at the front, the disclaimer is that we're not immigration consultants. We're not lawyers. We were international students before, and so we're trying to form a community that we can help persons like ourselves that didn't have the help that we needed, because I didn't have the help that I needed. So yeah, so that's definitely what I would recommend. And I'm very strong on what programs people select and the pay that they get, because the program that was suggested to me by the agent, when I started to look for co-op, I realized that you're not going to make any money. So then I switched to project management. So I ended up doing 2 one-year programs.
Okay, I didn't know that. And by the way, we're going to be interviewing Sanjay in an upcoming episode to get more of our immigration story, because like I said, she's an engineering training, which means that she's working towards getting her PEng, which is your professional engineering like certification, which generally when you come to Canada as a regulated profession, like some of the regulated professions on the NOC code, I think I mentioned that before, are in regulated professions, and she can help you to navigate that world of getting licensed and into your field. So we're going to be interviewing her soon. So look out for that episode. Subscribe. By the way, guys, if you've been on here for however long or you're still here, please take a minute to hit the like button if this was helpful at all to you. And of course, at some point when we're done, you can share it with people. Of course, it will be recorded on here, because we want to be the us that we didn't have in our journey. And though we are not immigration consultants, what we do is we partner with immigration consultants. We partner with financial advisors. We partner with people who you need, right, to help you to navigate this journey as an immigrant, right? So definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Look out for more. Hi, Danny. Welcome.
Subscribe.
Kim is learning French. Good for you, Kim. Keep it up.
Yeah, Kim is very ambitious.
Yeah, man. Kim should get like an award for like participation, like always ever present, showing up for herself. Like I respect you.
Yes, Kim is the ambassador for all of us.
There we go. So somebody asked, so I joined too late. Hopefully you're still on here. But did you address the question of whether the requirement for master's applications to have an attestation letter is effective immediately? I don't believe that a date was attached to that announcement specifically. November the 1st seems to be a core date, but it's saying, let me look for the minister's announcement here, where it said, the 2025 to 2026, so 2025 to 2026 study permit intake cap will include master's and doctoral students who will now have to submit a provincial or territorial attestation letter. So I'm going to share my screen real quick.
I don't see a date. But
I don't see a date, but I do see the 2025-2026 study permit intake cap, right? Which is usually for January people. Just 2025 year starts January, people who are starting school in January. If there's any master's or doctoral programs that start in January, it might be September. A lot of the masters and doctoral are September semester start.
They're mostly September, most times. There are a few of the smaller universities that you can get in January, May, but very, very few programs. So I think this probably for persons, and that's why it's important, guys, like, is to submit these applications as soon as you can and be on, like, a track, like you're running a 100-meter, you're trying to beat Usain Bolt. Because no, for real, because sometimes people are just ready, like this close to submitting their applications and don't submit, and then the next day minister just be like, hi, change. But we can, because for January people, I typically recommend that even now, like people for January would have applied already from August. So would have, applied already. So all of these changes to come in for January would have already sent in, so just be mindful of, like literally run like you're running against Usain Bolt in these timelines. I think you have time.
Yeah. So there's no day that we see, but like it's like Sanjay said, and then the time lapse 2025 2026 start and stuff like that. So but keep a lookout for official announcements. Of course they will announce dates, I promise you that. They're doing higher deposits and even requirements. Yes. Definitely need to find a community and stop being so selfish. Yes. Good evening, everyone. Can you please expound on what is the criteria for getting a provincial attestation letter? I thought once you're accepted by the school, you're eligible to receive it. No, this is
And
a
then on
really
the
good
school,
question.
it's really because it's the schools sending it in, you know. So it really depends on the schools, and a lot of times they will now ask you for that deposit. So without that deposit, and depending on how close you're applying to it, so that's also why you want to, you know, get in as soon as possible. Let's say, for example, you want to come January, you're just applying now. The schools will just tell you that the deposit is the whole first semester. I've seen them done that. Like the whole first semester, 8,500 is what they need, and you're not getting a PAL without that, right? And sometimes they have this form that you need to fill out. Not all the schools, they have this form that for you to fill out to say yes, 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 this, yes, that, yes, whatever, and then they'll request the PAL from the government because it's up to them, their conscience. Because I remember it was Sioux College, they were like, we're not asking for any more PAL, right? When they had a deadline. So it's not dependent on us. It's really dependent on those schools and how quickly they process it and if they want to process them.
And then upon to the province to approve it.
Yeah,
which is at their discretion, I'm presuming.
So it's a double process. So it's really at everybody's discretion. So you want to get in, and I think earlier we mentioned get in and give yourself at least 6 weeks in between to get the PAL, right? So you want to get the acceptance. Now we add an extra 6 weeks to get the PAL before you get to that study permit application stage.
Yep. Womp, womp, womp. All right. So if your score is 411, should you get into the pool? Yeah, if you can meet the requirements, like there's no benefit to not. There's no harm in not being in the pool, right? If you have an English language score, you have your thing, your credentials assessed. And like you say, you have the financial requirement. I don't know if you put lower than the minimum for the first person, if your profile will be ineligible. So that's something that you can try, but there's no, basically, like Sanjay said, it's an electronic waiting room, right? So if you can just join a virtual line.
Yeah.
The need to crack down on fraud more. Okay, if the score is high and genuine candidates are rewarded, but the programs have a... Okay, that's not a question. Just going through the questions here on YouTube. Thank you guys for, of course, joining and being active in the chat. Kim gets a gold medal for participation, as always. Look out for my email, Kim, to join the masterclass. Sanjay, would you recommend a master's in healthcare management for someone who has a business degree?
I think
Is there a master's in healthcare management?
Yeah, there's like a postgrad or a graduate. I don't know if I've seen a master's, but I still feel like that's a little bit broad. Like I would need to know what's your trajectory, you know, based on the in demand. Like what job would you be applying for with that master's? Like it would be great to do it, but would it land you in one of those in demand jobs? You know, I know that people say healthcare, but not just right across the board. Like not you'd have to go through the list to make sure like a healthcare administrative assistant or a healthcare information technologist kind of person or a healthcare manager coordinator would be on that in-demand list. But for sure, if you do that and you're able to get into a supervisory or a managerial role, then you know you're under a good tier. But is it gonna be in one of those, you know, category-based draws? I'm not sure. I don't want to tell you yes. I'm not sure. I would have to look through the list. But look through the list, I'll be cautious. Yeah.
Right. And in the masterclass, I'll show you how to go through the list. We're going to talk about the masterclass just next, but now that you mentioned that, even for people who are gunning for PSW programs, right? Yes, they're coming out with this new pilot program. Usually, the caregiver pilot programs well, this is going to be a permanent program, I think, sorry.
Yes,
So a caregiver permanent program, not going to be pilot. But in the past, the caregiver pilot program, the cap was 1,750. When I published a video on caregiver, 11,000 people watched it. More people than the cap.
The cap can manage.
Right? So yes, you want to do PSW, but all PSWs aren't made equal. So there's a PSW that is not express entry eligible, and there's a PSW that is. PSWs that are home-based are not express eligible, but they are eligible for, well, based on the previous pilot program and maybe the new one. They haven't announced the details. But if you're working in a private home, it doesn't make you eligible for express entry. If you're working in an institution,
like my house.
Yes, private home with a private person, which is what the caregiver pilot program was geared towards. So people who are in institutions couldn't apply for the pilot program. They had to be working in a private home. That's a different knock code than somebody who is working in an institution who is eligible for express entry. And all those little intricacies you have to know. So people who are going in for PSW, make sure that you understand what that means in terms of trajectory, that it is on the list, and how to identify that, which is something that we're going to do in the masterclass.
Yeah, and I feel like that's also something that people tell people a lot, because I've gotten a lot of clients who say, oh yes, I heard that I should do PSW, and I'm like, do you like it? No, there are other options that if this is not something that you really like, then there is also the RPN. There's other options, guys.
Right. So very good job here. Thank you, Brian, and thanks for joining, of course. Another award, yes, Kim. Roshi, the OG, Rochelle, welcome. Thank you. Good to be here. Glad you got in when you did. I'm glad you said that, because I said this to somebody. I don't know if anybody does any trading or knows anything about the stock market. If you don't, sorry. But getting in when we got in is like if you bought the video like 10 years ago.
Me about it. Oh my God.
If you bought the video 10 years ago, like when we got in, you're good.
If you bought even Summit like 3 weeks ago, you're good.
Right. So like, I'm glad we got in and I wouldn't want to be trying for a study permit right now or PR or anything in this minute, because I know, like, and I want you guys to feel supported by us. We get it. It was a stressful process for me. It was a good stressful 3.5 years to get between student and PR, right? And all these changes right now, I can understand the turmoil that's going on. Please find community. Don't be stressed out on your own over there. So the masterclass has a community aspect to it. So let me jump right into that right now, actually.
Yeah, because I feel like we mentioned it so much time. They're probably like, what are they talking about at this point?
What is talking about, though? So I'm going to just share my screen real quick here. If I can. Yeah, okay. So really quickly, what I have identified is 5 strategies that the government is using to determine immigration programs, to determine the direction of immigration. 1, labor shortages. Federal means all of Canada. 2, French-speaking population, underpopulated areas in Canada, provincial needs, and future and current labor shortages. And in the masterclass, what I do is to help you to understand what all of this means and how this is what Canada is using to determine who to let in, basically, right? Who to let in, who to keep, who can stay. And if you don't understand these, and if you don't understand how to align yourself with these, you're going to have a hard time figuring out how to stay, as with many of the people who I know right now personally have fallen out of status. So the masterclass is you watching these series of videos to understand these. How will Canada choose me? How can I get on the side of Canada? Right? And all the resources that you need. If you're choosing this option here, here's the resource that you need to do that. If you're a regulated profession, if you're a pharmacist, we have a couple of pharmacists in the group. Here is Sanjay. You can go to Sanjay, go through her boot camp, get licensed as a pharmacist or an engineer or a teacher, right? Regulated professions and more to come, right? How do you get licensed and claim that knock code, right? You can't claim it if you don't have it, if you are not it, right? So how do you do that? All right. So we have the how to, like, here's the solution, here's who to go to, or here's where to find the solution right now, right? Because that is something that is going to be critical for your future success as an immigrant in Canada with these ever-changing immigration policies, right?
Yeah.
So right now it's free to enter. It also has a community component where you can interact with the people in the community. We had somebody who got an invitation to apply this week, so we celebrated him in the group. And of course, when these changes happened, Raquel said, "Oh my gosh, changes, more changes," right? Right. So you want to be in their supportive community. The link to join is there in the chat right now. Also
And I'm in
coming
the
up.
community if you want to see my face.
Yes, join the community if you want to see Sanjay's face and or face. And Sanjay has a webinar coming up for people who want scholarships, who are interested in scholarships as international students, right, to study in Canada. So I know that, funding is a big thing. And a lot of people always ask for scholarships, which are rare, which are hard to come by sometimes, but they're going to show you how to find those scholarships, where to find those scholarships, and of course, allow you to ask questions about that. So you want to look out for that. That is coming up on September the 25th.
6th.
6th.
Yeah, Thursday.
So this Thursday at
7.
At 7 p.m.
It's 7. So if you guys follow us on StudiiCAN, you'll see like the flyer there. So it's gonna be a series kind of where we try to help people with funding and scholarships and stuff, and we are hoping to expand it out a little bit more. So we'll see how far that goes. But with the masterclass, I just wanted to add a point. I know a lot of times these communities form, and Christina and I spoke about it at length, and people just come and they just carry IRCC to the group. You see how Christina pulled up the government website, pulled up CIC, pulled up that video. If you don't have any pull up to do, we don't want your pull up. You understand? Because we don't want this to be something that people are led astray and people think they can do this, and then bam, we hear that 50 Caribbean people go and get sent home. Because no, we want to make sure that we're pulling up the right things, and we're supporting each other with the correct information.
Yes. Amen. Hallelujah. Hi, Danny. Always great to have you. That's the link to join the community. So it is on a platform called School right now. It's completely free to join. Be there. Look out for yourself. The whole goal is to help you to reverse engineer your success before the first domino fall, before you even get into Canada. But if you're already here too, how to course correct if you have to course correct to get on the right side of the Canadian government, right? Look out for the next minister immigration announcement. And yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah,
I think that's a wrap. So follow Sanjay, StudiiCAN, STUDII. It's like radii, can. She's also in the masterclass, so you can also, and this event that's coming up is also on the masterclass calendar, which inside the masterclass calendar. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you've not hit the like button already, do that. Share this when you hop off. And yeah, thanks for coming. Somebody's sharing some love for you here, Sanjay.
Thanks,
Stacey.
I think this was a good chat. I liked all the people in the chat. Kim, it was very interactive. Thank you guys for joining.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Raquel, for being on here. Good old faithful. I don't know if you feel a little bit better. I mean, maybe we can get some live feedback.
Yeah, actually, people, how are you feeling? Like,
how are you feeling now that you've watched?
Yeah.
Raquel, you want to don't fall asleep? Did you fall asleep again?
It's time I'm awake because I'm stuffing my face.
Okay. How are you feeling post this live?
You know what?
You're a little bit low.
Yeah, you're low.
Oh, hold on. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay. But everybody you can drop it in the chat. Tell us how you guys feeling. It would be good to get some feedback.
I think I'm feeling better. Like I said, I have a bit more time, but one thing I take from here, I would say, is one thing that this session really cleared up for me was LMIA. Because much like how other people got in their head that LMIA was like a sure pathway. So definitely need to follow the masterclass more because we dispel these things. So yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, Raquel, for sticking and staying.
Yes. And I think somebody, Yannick, said that I didn't answer her question. I know, Yannick, I saw your name beside that question, but then it said the message was retracted. So then I didn't, there's no,
We
like,
see it.
I can't see it. So if you don't mind, just copying it again. Very informative session. Thanks for sharing. Absolutely. Thanks for joining. You can ask a question again. You have a lot more clarity. Perfect. And there's a link to the masterclass if for anybody who missed it. There in the chat on YouTube. Of course, when you join, I have to approve you. So there's a little bit of a, I have to get you ready for CIC approval.
Yeah, approval, I'm checking.
A lot more clarity. But Yannick, feel free to ask a question again, please. Sorry if I missed it, but everything that I look up and see you, it says it was retracted. So I'm sorry about that. I can't see it. Always, Stacey. Thanks for joining. I'm just looking out for Yannick's question. I don't know if you still want to ask it, Yannick.
And it's not Yanni left already.
Well, she just messaged a while ago. Hi, Danny. Always good to have you, Danny. Always good to have you. Yes, join. Yes, Danny, join. Danny was also somebody who somebody tried to get him to say, here's an LMIA. It's the magic pill.
And pay me some money.
Okay, so Diana said, personally, every time the immigration minister has a press conference, I feel disheartened. I know. However, I think I'm still in the race to apply for a master's program. Good for you, Diana. Good for you.
Yeah. And if you guys want help with applying for masters, you can touch base with me. I can help you.
Yes. Danny said, do you touch on skills trades? We didn't touch on any specific industry or anything like that because it's a revolving door.
Yeah.
And what I do in the masterclass is here's how to find what's in demand. Okay, this is how to fish. I teach you how to fish. So, but I know that skills trade in the past, and I can touch on this actually because somebody, I don't know who the counterpart was in the minister's address. My bad if he's somebody like I should know. But he did talk about how skills trades, especially in third world countries, are looked down upon. And even skills trades people in Canada right now, there's a lack in that industry because people think that, they're not going to get good pay. It's going to be minimum wage jobs and skill. When I was working in project management, the welder was making more money than me after all of the school one go and all of the exam one take, right? So, and that's an indication that they do value skills trades.
They make money.
They make really good money. They're unionized, right? And so there are opportunities there that are in need in Canada right now, welding being one of them that hasn't changed
plumbing as well, like plumbing. Because when I work with like the plumbers at work to get quotes and stuff, they charge a good buck for like a plumber to come on the site. They charge a good buck. So
yeah, so skills trades are definitely in need. And I see that they're saying that it is a long-term need based on that same interview with the minister. So all of the references are linked in the description below this video. The minister's address, the minister's speech, the video that the minister spoke in. I think those are the 3 references, or maybe there's 4. I don't remember the fourth one. That yes, skills trades are in demand and in need. And
millwright, you get a lot of money.
Yes.
Millwright, you get a lot of money.
Yes, you can share your riches with me, Danny, when you get it. Remember me when you remember me. Try not to give up. Yeah, don't give up, guys. Don't lose heart. And it's not really about giving up, right? It's knowledge applied is power, right? So you know the information. How do you apply it right now? Is Canada the place to be? Maybe. Is it not? Maybe not. It's not really about giving up. It's moving with the tides and using the information to the best of your ability to improve your life some way, shape, or form.
Yanni question came. Yanni was saying, I was saying just completed a postgraduate in PM, like project management, and doing a second program in supply chain. So I wanted to know if that course is sufficient with all the IRCC changes happening, or do I reconsider for a second program? I think there's a lot of factors around that question, so a little bit more heavy than consider another program, because I've had a lot of clients that I worked with to switch them into different programs of late, because of course, as you know, a lot of things have changed and are changing. So what I would say really depends on your budget, one. But if you're somebody that have the budget and can rejig, I personally would not head in the direction of supply chain, because I had another client who wanted to look at that and I wasn't seeing it on the list. I don't know if it updates on the list, but what I would say, check the list. That would be my biggest suggestion, is check the list to see if it's still relevant. And if not, touch base with me. We can talk.
Right. The whole point is you need to be able to reverse engineer where that second program is going to land you in favor of immigration at the end of the day. This was a very popular combination actually when I was in IPM course, because people would just do 1 year and then they go into supply chain, and at the time it made sense, especially during COVID, like a lot of supply chain issues and stuff like that. However, like Sanjay said, like it's a loaded question. We don't want to say yes, so we don't want to say no. But you need to be able to reverse engineer. The masterclass would be very helpful for you. Yannick, I don't know if you got that link, but there's a link again. Join, go through the videos, figure out how to do that. And by the way, guys, if you're not using AI, the world is going to leave you behind. Whether you like it or not, AI is here and it's here to stay. And it can be very helpful. Soon I will announce an AI immigration tool, right? But right now, the basic AI can help you with some of this reverse engineering. I am studying this program right now, project management. Here are the in-demand occupations in this industry right now in Canada. What if I study supply chain, will it lead me to any of these? And AI can help you. I promise you that, right? So definitely join the masterclass, because I teach you how to do that in the masterclass, just to help you to navigate some things that your mind may not immediately come up with. All right. Yeah. So good job staying on. Remember to hit the smart like button, Sanjay. It was a pleasure. Thank you for being here. I can't wait. So we're going to be interviewing Sanjay and hearing her immigration story, because like she said, she started one program and she did a second program. So we're going to talk about that. And now she's a permanent resident in Canada.
Actually, citizen.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. She's a citizen. Okay, she has a passport.
Last year, right?
Money. Right? She has a passport and it's on her way to getting her PNG, right? So definitely stay tuned. Look out for that episode. I don't know if you have any last words of wisdom. I usually ask for like a word of wisdom, a sentence, or anything that you want to leave people with before we sign off.
I think what I would say is stay flexible and stay strategic, and don't be afraid to reach out for help. Yeah. I'll
see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, all these wonderful things. Okay, I'll approve those requests to joins. Bye.
Bye, guys.